What's good, everybody? I'm the one and only one, fleeboyjetson. And if you're tuning in for the first time, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, click that notification bell so you can be notified for upcoming videos and live events. This is Voice of the Heroes, and today we got a very special guest, Globku himself, man. We'll be talking about his life, anime, and gaming, all three. Also, I want to introduce the rest of the panel and my other co-hosts, Bake Lake and Dens. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. Let them know where they can find you at.
My name is Bake Lake. You can find me on Twitch at Bake Lake and Instagram at Lil Bake Lake.
My name is Dens. You can find me on Twitch at Dens, and then Instagram and Twitter, the official Dens.
And the man who needs no introduction himself, but go ahead, Globku. Let them know where they can find you at.
Hi, my name is Globku. I'm an anime games YouTuber. You can find me mainly on youtube.com/Globku for the videos and youtube.com/Globku live for the live streams.
Once again, my brother, thank you for coming to the show. Now, we definitely going to talk about some things, but first, let's get into you, man. Let's figure out, what got you into content creating, and, what was the gateway for you to, really take this on full time and get into it as deep as you are?
Content creation started back when I was a guild master on World of Warcraft. So I had a group of people that we were raiding on a weekly basis, like 2 or 3 times a week. So we needed to organize and we needed to schedule and we needed to be on point with those raids, make sure we always had 10 people to go and play. So at the time, what I thought was a good idea to keep everyone on the loop on what we were doing, because you can only take 10 people into these raids, was to make a weekly vlog type of series that just told the group what was done and what we were doing and what we were planning. So that's how I got into content creation, was just making videos for that very small group of people, which was I guess around 50 people in the guild, or maybe 100. And I was just making vlogs for those guys to let them know, hey, here's what we're doing. And that's how I got started, recording videos, editing, and doing all that stuff. Eventually, I quit World of Warcraft, but I wanted to keep in touch with those guys. So we just started playing different games and making videos so everyone could see what we were playing and what we were planning on doing. Just so we could keep that group of friends that we built. Those friendships wouldn't go away. Just because we decided to change games and we were kind of split apart. So that's when I made the YouTube channel that I'm on right now. And it used to be called Magical Noob, which was the name of this little community that we made before it was, Globku, which was my name back in World of Warcraft too, ages ago.
How did you come up with the name? Was the name just, did a friend give you the name? We gotta know about it, man. How you get the name Globku?
Oh, it's so cringe. It's so cringe. Okay. I got into World of Warcraft because I had a couple of real life friends that were doing World of Warcraft roleplay. So they were actually just pretend to be the characters. They would walk in universe and do these little things in universe because they loved the story, and I loved the World of Warcraft story too at the time. And that's when I said, I kind of want to do that. It's a little dumb, but I like that dumb. It's fun. So I made this whole character, man. I made this whole lore for a gnome character that got captured during a war and got corrupted and whatnot, and was imprisoned by the orcs. And when they came back, they had learned these dark arts, and the gnomes did no longer wanted anything to do with the guy, so he ended up alone. So I went to some random internet. Oh my god! I went to some random internet translator where you just go type a word and translate this into Orcish, this made up language. And I typed in alone, and it came up with Globku. And that was it.
Oh, okay. So that is the origin of Globku. That's pretty dope. Besides role playing,
I was so edgy.
Besides of role playing on World of Warcraft, right? Have you ever tried the IRL role playing games like D&D, things like that, like Dungeons and Dragons? Never.
No, I have not. Never. I've seen some D&D campaigns on YouTube, and I think the content that's made around D&D nowadays is really, really good. It has evolved so much over the years that it's just really interesting as a spectator thing. But I was never a part of anything like that.
Oh, okay. So now, what was the game that really took your career to a new level and to new heights? What was the first game you feel elevated you as a content creator, and you probably might even hold responsible for where you at now?
Dying Light. I'm
Ooh,
gonna say that's
Aw.
my first
great
answer.
game.
Dying Light was the first game that, as a content creator, I started covering and started seeing numbers on, and I went like, "That's how you do YouTube." You know, up to that point, I had been covering so many games. You know, World of Warcraft on one channel. I left that channel behind. I'm never sharing that channel. You are never seeing those videos. And when I came over, like I started playing a variety of games with friends, and like all of those videos are still out there and they're public on the channel. I am not ashamed of them at all. Like it's where I started and where I got to. So you can see like some really cringy content on the channel because I just leave it up. But I think Dying Light is when I first started doing numbers and I started figuring out YouTube in a way that wasn't like, well, I'm just doing the videos I want because I want to be a YouTuber and I want to do gameplay videos, you know? It was more like, oh, there's stuff that works and doesn't work. And that got me into that YouTuber mindset of like, okay, I can't just make whatever, you know? I have to chase these topics. I have to do this and that.
So you found out your niche, basically, like what works for you and what didn't work for you?
I think I carved out the Dying Light niche back then. This was before release. And the first obstacle that I ran into was when Dying Light came out, I did not know how to keep covering that game. Like I figured out how to cover Dying Light before release. And I think you still see a lot of that on my channel nowadays. Like you see me covering a lot of games before release in the way that I used to cover Dying Light back then, like ages ago. So, but then when the game came out, I was like, I don't know how to make content anymore. I was covering the news. Like, how do I keep this up? And then I transitioned over to Batman Arkham Knight, and I did the same for Arkham Knight. Did not reach the same numbers, but I was doing okay on Arkham Knight too. But yeah, Dying Light was the first game that did that.
So what was the first anime game, or what was the first anime that got you into that mode?
So as a kid, I played everything anime. I was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z for the Mega Drive. I was obsessed with Final Bout, even though everyone knows nowadays that that was a bad game. And obviously on the PlayStation 2 era, Budokai Tenkaichi took over my life.
Yes.
I skipped the PS3 era entirely, did not have a PS3, and I think I kind of forgot about anime games for a period there. But none of that was content creation. All of that was me as a kid playing video games. Then comes World of Warcraft, then comes AAA gaming, and like anime games existed back in my childhood, but not in content creation. So at some point, I get hired by a company called TGN to make content. And I'm making content for the TGN channel, which has 1 million subscribers. And I was making like the Batman Arkham Knight videos. I got over 1 million views on a Batman Arkham Knight video for the TGN channel. And making a bunch of variety content until the YouTube algorithm changed. The YouTube algorithm changed and suddenly channels that were doing general gaming, you know, just covering a bunch of different video games, started dying out in favor of channels that specialized on a topic. So the TGN channel decided to stop covering general games and specialized on Overwatch. And it was just Overwatch videos. And I'm not that big of a fan of Overwatch. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, I'll write a script and edit some videos, I guess. But like they felt like they were underutilizing my talents. And they said, why don't you pitch us a brand new channel for TGN? And I pitched TGN Anime. Because back in my memories were all those Dragon Ball games, all those Naruto games, all those One Piece games that I spent hours just playing, you know? And I pitched the TGN Anime channel. I put together a document with names like Afro Senju, Rhyme Style, like showing this corporation that this concept works. Like it's super weird. Like I had to do business analysis, not knowing how to do business analysis, and show these numbers to a corporation to convince them that this was a good idea. And yeah, they went for it. They said, yeah, let's do it. So I started out, and I didn't even know it was going to be anime games, because I started out trying different topics, and some of them were proper anime. Like I was trying to talk about anime before I tried talking about anime games. And you know, it's the YouTube strategy that you can even use nowadays of like, make a bunch of videos on different topics, see what sticks. If something works, you do it again and again and again. And the first thing that worked was a list video on Attack on Titan, which was the 10 dumbest Titans in the show. And then Dragon Ball Fighter stuff did not work at the start, but I knew the potential that game had, so I forced it to work. I kept doing it, even though it was performing poorly. Naruto Shinobi Striker performed really well from the start, though. And that kind of got me into the anime gaming scene. TGN Anime shut down. I brought that audience over to my channel, and that's the channel that you guys see nowadays.
Dope.
Okay. I seen your most recent YouTube video about Eren Yeager being in Fortnite, and you were kind of commenting about the skins and stuff. How do you feel about the gaming industry appealing more to anime fans? How they're adding anime characters into their games and they're making everything kind of like, anime themed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's a shift that I caught at the start of TGN Anime. I feel like the mainstreamization of anime kind of happened around that time. And I think that is fantastic for every anime fan involved. Like, some will feel like, well, if it was cool, like, why did I get bullied ages ago for liking this stuff? But the truth is, if more people like it, there's more money going into it, which means there's going to be more anime, there's going to be more anime games, and these types of collaborations are the proof of that. Like, Fortnite is one of the biggest games on the planet. And the fact that Fortnite is chasing these deals, chasing these collaborations, is just like the perfect example and the greatest sign you could possibly have that this stuff has gone mainstream nowadays, and that there's a lot more money in this now than there was like 10 years ago.
Do you think the gaming companies are doing it because they possibly have gaming developers that want to push anime out, or do you think they're just doing it for money? Like, kind of like a cash grab, you know what I mean? If we release these skins, we know they're gonna buy them. Because I will.
I mean, there's always money involved. And I think when there's money involved, I think the question you ask is a question a lot of fans ask too. But I also don't think one thing is exclusive. These two things are not mutually exclusive. You either have passion or you have money. No, that's not how it works. Most video game developers are fans of the jobs they do. They are fans of video games. So are they fans of the anime they're working on? Sometimes, sometimes not. I know a lot of people at CC2 that are big fans of anime and they watch everything. So they would be happy to work on any anime franchise. 100%. So there's passion there on the development side. Now, if there's no money to be had there, they're not going to fund the production. They're not going to fund development. They're not going to fund 5 years of paying a full team salaries because, there's no money to be made. And so on the publisher side, you could say, yeah, on the publisher side, maybe they're focused a little bit more on the money. On the developer side, they might have that passion and still have to like sort of balance the budget that they're given with the passion and the project that they want to make. But I don't think it's a one-to-one. I don't think it's fair to say that Bandai Namco, the publisher, doesn't have the passion for Dragon Ball. I mean, they hire people based on their interests too, I think we recently had Romanova I don't know if you guys know her. She was hired as a PR to Bandai Namco, and she mainly focuses on the fighting game side of things and does PR for JoJo, does a lot of stuff for Bandai Esports. So she worked on the Dragon Ball FighterZ World Tour finals that happened recently. The reason why Romanova was hired was not only because she already had PR background on NetherRealm, but also she's a big figure in the FGC. She was a commentator for Dragon Ball FighterZ. She does a lot of cosplay as well. So like you can tell that she's a fan and she has the knowledge. So someone like that is going to be hired for that position because it makes total sense. And Bandai, hires people that are passionate about the IP that they have. So there's definitely passion inside the publisher side too. If you go a step further and talk about the license holder, then yeah, if you talked about Shueisha and I don't know, Studio Trigger and all these license holders, like they are typically kind of hard to work with because they understand their side of things, the anime side of things of the industry a lot better than the gaming side of things. Which is why publishers like Bandai Namco can sometimes help that relationship because they're used to working with license holders and they know how to approach them and how to sell them on this stuff. But yeah, on that side, I would say they're trying to milk as much as they can. Usually that's the case.
I was gonna ask you, since you did say earlier back in your day that you played on the PS2, you played Dragon Ball Z games, I'm sure the Naruto games. Did you cater more towards those type of games than the games now? Like nostalgia obviously gets affected with this question. But like personally, like Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was like my favorite anime game. Broken Bonds from Naruto, like those are my favorites. And I feel like now the way that anime games are kind of going, they're not really. I feel like they're more so microtransactions and more cash grabby, kind of related to what Lake was saying with how they're doing it with like Fortnite and pushing these skins. Like, how do you feel about the state, I guess, of anime games compared to when they first were coming up when we were like kids?
Right. I think, first of all, I think the Fortnite deal is something completely separate. I think the Fortnite deal, it escapes the usual business model that worked the way. So the way it used to work is a publisher used to buy a license and they would hold that license as long as they put out games for it. So Bandai has the Naruto license as long as they publish a Naruto game every year. That has shifted nowadays. So instead of publishing a full game, they can just publish another season pass, keep putting out DLC, keep the brand alive, so to speak. The Fortnite deal, it happened without Bandai even knowing about it. So like Epic reached out directly to Shueisha and Shueisha's like, sure. So that is like, that's a very big fish. That's a big power move there to like disrupt how this whole industry used to work. So the Fortnite deal is kind of completely separate from this conversation. But I do think like Shinobi Striker is a great example of a game that came out. You had to buy the game, and now you have to buy DLC over and over if you want to keep having all the content. Yeah, that's completely different from the way Tenkaichi was. The thing is, Tenkaichi multiplayer was mostly you and a buddy next to you playing.
Yeah.
And nowadays, you release a Tenkaichi game, it has to have online. And 100%. If it has online, it's going to be a broken game, which it wasn't back then because it was just you and your friend right next to you. You open this up to the internet, and suddenly there's a meta because people find the strong stuff. There's content creators saying, yo, this is busted. And now everyone's using it online. And now the game is boring online because you're always playing against the same characters. So now there has to be a balance patch. But for that to be a balance patch, there needs to be people working on the game still after release. And for how long do you keep that support? If you want to keep having that support, you have to fund it somehow. And the way you fund it is microtransactions and DLC. It's sort of like the whole gaming industry has shifted towards this with the rise of online multiplayer. I don't think that's like a shift specific to anime games. It's just how gaming is nowadays.
Because gaming is more catered towards like with a buddy back then, and now it's like multiplayer online. And what's the best class? What's the class setup? I need this character type thing.
Yeah, and fighting games kind of had that before we did with anime games, because even though fighting games were also not online back then, a lot of them were in arcades, and then you had tournaments. So the scene was a lot bigger. The multiplayer scene was a lot bigger, or at least was communicating a lot more. Like, I don't think a lot of fighting games sold more than Tenkaichi did, but with Tenkaichi, you just had like two kids in front of the TV playing every weekend, and they wouldn't really talk to other kids in another country about the characters they used or the combos they were doing or whatever. They were just focused on having fun for that weekend, With fighting games, that wasn't the case. So you had Street Fighter, for instance, you had like a Street Fighter cycle where you go into tournaments and you determine a meta, and suddenly you know who's busted and who's not. And instead of there being a balance patch, or instead of there being DLC, they released a Street Fighter Championship Edition, and they rebalance that way, and you got to buy the game again now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what we have now is better than that alternative, because at least you don't have to buy the game again, and balance patches are generally free. Because that's something people sleep on. Because like, oh, it's all DLC, it's all microtransactions. You don't have to get any of that. That is funding the free balance patch that you're getting in your game, even if you don't spend another penny.
I was gonna ask you, right, because you brought up DLCs in this whole little situation, right, with Shinobi Striker. First of all, hats off to you. Your first prediction was right. The newest DLC for Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Striker, will be Minato.
Show me another creator. That said Edo Minato.
Edo Minato is definitely coming to Shinobi Striker, so salute to you, because they did announce it, I think, yesterday, right? They announced it yesterday with in the V-Jump scan.
I don't know when you're publishing this.
So, I'm not gonna lie. I'm hyped for it. I know a lot of people are not hyped because I seen the comments in my video, right? And they're really upset that the devs for Shinobi Striker keep catering to the defense mains and not catering more toward the DPSs, which I don't get. Like, we're getting content still for the game in its 5th year with 2 new season passes and also maybe content for the future post 2024. So my question is to you, how long do you think Shinobi Striker has left for content? And do you feel like maybe season 7 might, wrap up the game because the licensing with it will be over, and it's not confirmed that they relicensed season 8 or anything like that with Soleil. So how do you feel about first the DLC Minato, and second about the future of Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker?
I think it's impossible to tell for the simple reason that I don't think it depends on Shinobi Striker anymore. I think it depends on what their plans are for the Naruto franchise as a whole. Because we're seeing a new Storm game come out this year. And this is like the first year where we will have 2 Naruto games as service at the same time. So we will have DLC for Shinobi Striker coming out at the same time as DLC for Connections. How do these compete with each other? That will be a very interesting point for Bandai to determine. And also, what's the next Naruto game? Like, how far into the future are we releasing the next one? And what is it even? Like, does it make sense to keep Shinobi Striker going? Because if you look at Dragon Ball, on the Dragon Ball side of things, if we follow that model, yeah, you can totally have both, and Shinobi Striker will be here for a long time. Because Shinobi Striker is the Xenoverse 2 of Dragon Ball, right? And Xenoverse 2 has stayed active through Dragon Ball FighterZ, through Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, through Dragon Ball The Breakers. So it has not taken a break on DLC or releases because it's not really competing with those. Does Shinobi Striker and Storm Connections exist in the same space? I don't think so. I think they can coexist perfectly. There is some competition. There's some overlap. There are players that will be choosing like, okay, this month I only have money for one DLC. Do I choose Shinobi Striker or do I choose Storm? But I think those players would never buy both DLC anyway. So I think there will be some competition, but not a ton of it to really cancel Shinobi Striker going forward. I think we will see another year, honestly, after season 7. But it also like really depends on what's next. How the Storm Connections launch, because they haven't promised DLC yet, but I'm sure they'll have at least one season of DLC for Connections. And if the game does well, they'll renew for another season of DLC. If the game does well, they can keep both games up for a while before they have to worry about releasing the next one. If not, Shinobi Striker is going to carry it. I don't really have an answer. It kind of depends on like the overall picture of the Naruto IP.
And what you think about the new DLC? Do you think he's gonna be broken? What do you think Minato is gonna bring different? We already know. I know what the answer is, but I honestly wanted you for the sake of the interview. You know what I mean?
Broken? What do you mean? Like, what can I say?
It's the 4th Hokage.
I've seen the jutsu descriptions and I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. We'll try it out. I mean, I've seen jutsu descriptions that are broken and I've seen jutsu descriptions that are boring as hell. A Zan Strike has the most boring jutsu description ever. It's like, okay, this jutsu is going to be garbage. And then you see it in game, you're like, oh. Whoa.
Yeah, it's completely broken.
Okay, hang on. So like the description is very little to go on. I mean, that's why I do the videos I do on release day for the DLC, and that's why I try a bunch of different things. It's still to be like, okay, this is a good DLC, this is a bad DLC, this might be a problem, this might not be a problem. Yeah, I don't think they're just giving love to defense types though. I don't know where that comment comes from.
Yeah, because they always feel like because we got Boruto, Karma Seal, we got the we got Neji, we got Sasuke. They gave us a lot of OP.
Is this range types mad that they got Temari? Is that why?
That's the reason. But I'm not gonna lie, she was a great DLC, to be honest. Actually meta changing. So, and that's my whole thing with Minato. His description, most defenses in Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker use Hazan Strike and Flame Formation with whatever ult they're using. Flame Formation is one of the biggest things because it, gives you it's the only thing to protect you from ultimates if you activate it at the right time. So now with Minato, he has something where I don't know if it's a Rasengan or some type of ball that covers and deflects ninjutsus and teleports them elsewhere. And then while inside, your allies get a buff. What buff that might be, whether it be a defense buff or attack buff, we really don't know until it comes out. But I'm hoping that's something that can possibly change the meta. Because when I look for DLCs in Shinobi Striker, my whole thing is, what does it do to the meta of Shinobi Striker?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the competitive player talking in you. And I think, that's what makes your channel yours. On my side, I'm like, is this unique? Does this bring something new? Right? And is it fun to use? Because I think, like, how many players do you have right now in the competitive scene?
a little over 500.
Like 500 is a big number for competitive. 100%, that's a huge number for competitive. It's not the number that keeps this game alive, though.
Yeah,
So,
it's
like,
not, because you got to think about it. You got close to like 3 million people playing the game, and only 500. Like, that's not even a.
Yeah. So those are the people that I'm making the content for. Like, is this something that you can buy and have fun with? And I think I try to make it clear, like, that this is what it is. Like, this is gonna. When I say something is busted, it's not busted really in the competitive sense. It's busted in the sense that you queue for a random queue by yourself. This jutsu is gonna carry stuff. And sometimes you have good jutsu competitively, but they require team coordination, so they're going to be garbage.
True.
In that sense, you know, like the what was it? Izanami? No, it's not Izanami. The Infinite Tsukuyomi, the one that puts everyone to sleep.
Izanagi?
Oh, the feather illusion.
No.
Or the Izanami? The Izanami?
Tsukiyomi? The Infinite Tsukiyomi?
Yeah,
Or the
Infinite Tsukuyomi, I think.
Okay.
Infinite Tsukuyomi, like, that is an ultimate that puts everyone on the chakra tree, right?
Oh, yeah. That's
So, like, the
Madara. That's Madara.
Yeah.
You cannot attack anyone if that thing is active. So you have to coordinate with your team saying, I ulted. So everyone has to stop attacking. But you do that in a random queue.
Yeah, people gonna knock people out your ultimate. You're not really gonna catch. So, yeah, true. So, all right.
Like,
one more question as far as
you can have banned stuff in competitive that would be, like, completely fine in a random queue.
Yeah. So one more question for Shinobi Striker that I'm pretty sure if I don't ask you, everybody, why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him? You know, it's more so still about the competitive side, and you know, you had a campaign going that actually reached Bandai with the hashtag Fix Shinobi Striker. Right, and it got a lot of buzz. It went trending on Twitter. My thing to you, right, is it actually possible they can put private matchmaking? And if so, why haven't they in year 5 yet? If it was announced, because you know it was. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but you know it was announced in the beginning of the game with the launch of the Chunin exams with Afro Senju, Rom Style, and them actually doing a Chunin exam with private matchmaking with other content creators. So they have like the, you know.
Okay, no, kind of. That's not really the same thing. So I had the private lobbies also in the first time I played the game ever at Gamescom, but that's like a closed circuit. You know, it doesn't really work as private lobbies. It's more like the game is connecting to a private internet connection, so those are the only players playing right there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But you know that private lobbies are possible because, like, we've both seen the mod, Fleeboy.
True.
We both see them, so we know it's possible. Why don't they do it? I don't know, man. Like, look, maybe it's a resource thing, maybe it's a player-based thing where they're like, they don't want to split the player base that way, and they worry about the game's life or the game's future, or maybe it's a pure like, where do you spend money? Should we spend money right now on custom lobbies to satisfy those 500 players, or should we work on making these special ninjutsu DLC, which people will buy, the 3 million players will buy, you know? It's constantly just like, everything costs money. How would it have the biggest return? And sometimes private lobbies are the biggest return because you make that and you have a whole community that's just going to be marketing the game for you for free. And that's your best argument. It's like, you give us this, we're going to be like hosting these tournaments and advertising your game this way because we want to grow our scene. And that is like the best argument we could have for them to make lobbies. The reason why they don't do it is probably because they don't see the value.
I kind of had a question that's more career based. So you started your journey, I think, back all the way in 2012, didn't you? And now you have over 300K on YouTube. I think you have over 340K How did you utilize all of your social media platforms to grow to where you are today?
All the growth is on YouTube.
Oh wow.
All of
That's
it.
it?
Yep. That's it. Actually, back on the Batman Arkham Knight and Dying Light days, I did use Reddit a little bit, but I got up to 10K subs before I switched over to anime. So like we're talking about a tiny fraction of that growth, and in a very different time. Like Reddit nowadays is much stricter about self-promotion, so it's not a viable strategy anymore. But most of it is organic. Most
Is
of
that
it
on
is just
purpose?
like I put this stuff on YouTube. Is it on purpose?
Yeah.
I've gone to social media to promote stuff, but like if my biggest platform is YouTube, what am I promoting?
Yeah.
True.
You know, I've used YouTube to promote other things for sure, but no, the growth on YouTube has all been coming from YouTube itself. Yeah,
That's
it's
actually
the
great.
algorithm, man. It's one of the best platforms to grow on.
That is a reoccurring theme I've noticed you talk about. It's kind of like the algorithm of how YouTube works. Do you have any advice on how to figure out the algorithm as somebody who's new to content creation?
Do a bunch of things, and then when whatever works, do it again. And I think like that's the best advice I can give you. It's like, do not assume that your idea is good. Test it out. If it fails, ask yourself why it failed. And if it doesn't, you can make some changes to the format. You can ask yourself, okay, maybe it failed because this thumbnail was like this. Let me try again with a different type of thumbnail. It failed again. It's a bad idea. Move on. And like sometimes it took me a long time to accept that some of my ideas were bad. To accept that some people might not be interested in some of the concepts that I thought was super promising. And it still happens nowadays. Nowadays, I'm still like, sometimes I have an idea that's completely different from the content I usually do. And it's like, I got a feeling about this idea, man. I got a feeling about this potential. It happened recently, I think. If you go to some of my recent videos, I don't know how long this was. I got one that's called I made YouTubers play the worst Dragon Ball game. And yeah. And I thought some of the biggest YouTubers in the world have these titles. Some of the biggest streamers in the world have these titles. Like the potential here is enormous. And that was my worst video in 2 months. So yeah, sometimes you just think, wow, no, this is going to work out great. And then it doesn't. Now I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to give it a different title and I'm going to give it a different thumbnail. And we'll see what happens. Is the concept just bad or was it like a bad approach on the title thumbnail front? We'll see.
Okay.
And when something works, you got to keep doing it. I usually tell people that ask me for advice, 80% of your content should be your regular channel's content, what you are known for. 80%. If you are doing Shinobi Striker competitive, 80% of your content is Shinobi Striker competitive, period. If you want to explore and try other things and diversify, that should be limited to 20% of your content. Now, if that diversification works, then it can become part of your main content. And it goes into the 80% and you can do 20% again to explore other topics.
What if it's like the other way where you're stuck in a certain category and you want to break that and you trying other things isn't working? Do you have any advice for people in that situation?
Yeah, quit.
Pack up your bags.
Okay, you're stuck somewhere you don't want to be. Is that it?
Yeah, like in a form of content.
I ain't even gonna lie. She's actually kind of echoing me right now because I'm stuck with Shinobi Striker, right? And I know the lifespan is maybe another year. So, like, what advice would you give me to like break out on the fleeboyjetson channel to do other content? Because I tried reactions, didn't work, didn't even hit a fraction.
Reactions to what?
Video games, like I think I did Gotham Knights when it first like was releasing. So I think I reacted to Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad.
Yeah, you tried to break out. Like you went to a completely different topic there. I mean, if you really think Shinobi Striker has another year, where do you think people are going? Where are they going to go from Shinobi Striker?
My community, like, probably Storm.
Split? You think they're going to go to Storm? That's your natural transition point then. Like the YouTube algorithm does not care about your channel. And that's a big misconception that creators have, is like, oh, my channel has this topic and now the YouTube algorithm, if I try to get it out of this topic, the YouTube algorithm is going to punish my channel. That's not what it does. The YouTube algorithm does not look at channels, it looks at viewers. And if you have a viewer base that is used to watching Shinobi Striker content That's what they are interested in. And then you post Gotham Knight content, they're not going to click it. YouTube is going to feed them that video. They're not going to click it, so it gets nerfed in the algorithm. Not because your channel changed topic, but because the audience that the YouTube fed it to doesn't care. So like the audience you've been cultivating and the audience that gets fed your videos over and over again doesn't click the video, then the video performs poorly because YouTube stops suggesting it to the wider audience, you know? That's really what it comes down to. And once you understand this, you understand I can make videos on any topic as long as I understand the audience I have. Now, if you really like want to switch, like do a total 180 and start covering superhero games instead of Naruto games, yeah, you're going to nuke your channel. It's the same as starting from scratch right now. Like you
and I did see that happen to a couple of my friends. Like he started doing completely different content. You know, you can see the numbers. And that's one of the reasons why I started this channel, because I decided I wanted to get into podcasting. You know, make a platform for voice actors, also content creators, things like that that really, you know, don't talk too much about themselves because they invest so much time talking about things that we love. You know, we want to get to know the person behind that voice. So that's one of the reasons why we created this platform.
And you've had Afro, right? You've had Afro on the podcast.
No, we're getting him the 27th. He'll be on the 27th.
And I think Afro has a completely different perspective on this topic, and that's because the way Afro's audience works is it sure started with Storm. It started there. It started with the Naruto audience. But he's got such a strong personality that people just want to see Afro play stuff, you know? And that is like what the audience is interested in. The audience is interested in him. And that is the biggest power you can have as a YouTuber. I don't have that power, by the way. I think the audience is interested in the topics that I talk about more than they are interested in me. Afro doesn't have that. Afro is the opposite, which gives him such freedom to do stuff like Gotham Knights if he wanted to. That's why he's doing Star Wars very soon. That's why he did the Souls-like games for so long, and he went on trending on gaming and everything. It worked perfectly. He can do a 180 turn in content because the personality is what carries the videos. That's what people are there for. You and me, we don't have that. We don't have that luxury. So we gotta stick to what we know and build the personality over time.
Okay. That's crazy that y'all are talking about that, because the way that y'all are talking about the YouTube aspect of it, it happens the exact same way when it comes to like the live streaming aspect of it. Because I have a friend that he was a Storm streamer, and he just streamed Storm tournaments and stuff like that. And as soon as he stopped doing that, everyone just left, and like they didn't care about the content, they didn't care about anything unless he was doing something that related to that. And so I'm seeing two sides of the spectrum when you say like you're with Afro and then with you and Flea, and it's like one and the same. But I guess content creation is like one and the same when it comes to whatever platform, because there's having the same issues with like finding out how to like cater to your audience and what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
that's very interesting to see.
A lot of it is like coming to the realization that if you understand what the platform wants from you, the platform will reward you. And what the platform wants from you is attention. They want you to hold as many viewers for as much time as possible. If you're able to do that, you get rewarded with bigger numbers. And that goes for every platform out there.
Cool. For also, now we talked about gaming. I do want to get into actual anime and, you know, television and film and things like that. What are you currently watching right now? And if you do watch anime, what is your top 5 animes? And what was your gateway into anime? Bunch of questions for you, God. Yeah, throwing 100 questions at you right
now. Dragon Ball started it all, I think. Dubbed on Portuguese television. Very funny dub, too. So yeah, as a kid, I didn't even know that was anime. It was just my favorite show of all time. Then I think proper anime. I think the first anime that I watched in Japanese was Naruto. That's where I began. I caught it. It was on the Chunin exams at the time. So I've been watching Naruto on a weekly basis since the Chunin exams. So when I say I don't watch Boruto, trust me, I've been through the pain. I don't want it anymore. Okay? I will read Boruto. That's fine. I don't want to watch it. I'll give you a top 3. I don't know about a
Top
five.
3, bet. Give us top 3. What's on your Mount Rushmore?
My Mount Rushmore, in no particular order, is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's the Monogatari series, which is going to be the most obscure. And I am very close to putting Attack on Titan there. But I hear the ending is, so I'm curious to see it. I haven't read it yet. So I want to see the ending, but right now I'm putting Attack on Titan there.
And what are you watching currently right now? What animes are you invested in weekly?
So,
if so.
Dr. Stone just started up again. So I'm watching that on a weekly basis. I'm watching One Piece. I don't do it weekly. I usually take a 2-month break and then catch up. So I think that anime is really slow, so I can't watch it on a weekly basis. I feel like it's a waste of time. But if I have a bunch of episodes to watch, it's great. I feel like the story moves forward actually. On a weekly basis, I think that's it. And I'm rewatching Monogatari because I love it. And every 5 years or so, I do it again.
All right, so now when it comes to Western cartoons and anime, right? We had a debate one time here on the channel. Western cartoons, you could say, things on Netflix like Castlevania and Arcane and, Cyberpunk and things like that take inspiration from actual anime. Like, perfect example, Star Wars Visions, right? They it's still like a Western theme type thing, but they use that culture to, push out the product. Do you think that's beneficial for the Western side of things, or do you think it's hurting it more and mixing the genres into where some people can't tell the two apart? If you told me Castlevania was a Western cartoon, I'll say you was probably lying the way it's drawn out and the way it's perceived.
I see. So you think is the question here, is it harming the traditional Western cartoon animation?
Yes.
Interesting. I never thought of that. I think it's just a style, man. I think it's just a choice. I do think anime is so mainstream that right now it is easier to make something anime, to sell something anime to a producer or a big budget, or someone that you're looking for a budget. You're looking for investors for a show. It's maybe easier to go, hey, this anime thing is selling. But I think there's a lot of really successful shows. Family Guy is probably still huge, right? But
yeah, I think it's on its 20th. Matter of fact, it just started its 20th season.
Come on.
Yeah.
And I do give it to Simpsons is still ongoing, I believe, right? Simpsons,
right?
They're still ongoing. And one new Western cartoon that I actually like, actually the whole studio, Prime Video with Vox Machina and with Invincible. Those have been really successful.
That's the same thing. That looks
comics basically.
No, okay, actually no. It does have that superhero aesthetic from the DC comics too. That's kind of a cool mix, that one, Invincible.
Yeah.
Invincible's great.
Yeah, Invincible is one of my favorites.
It's great.
Yeah, it's good. I watch a lot of Gumball. That's made for kids, but I actually love that one a lot.
Love Gumball. It's my favorite show ever.
Oh, it's so good.
And speaking of, one more question, how do you feel about anime studios, or not even anime studios? Let's just focus on Netflix, taking some of our beloved animes and turning them into live action. Like you said, Full Metal. They did it with Full Metal. They actually did 3, I think, with Full Metal Alchemist live action on Netflix. And then, they did Ronin Kenshi, Death Note. Some of them are good. I think the Ronin Kenshi movies are good, but I think the Full Metal and the Death Note and Bleach movies was pretty ass. What do you think about the live? Huh? Yeah, they got a Bleach movie. You didn't know that? On Netflix?
I didn't know there was a Bleach movie.
Yeah, a live action Bleach movie that came out about 2 years ago on, and it deals with the first arc where he meets what's her name, and he gets the powers.
2018.
Yeah, 2018.
That's crazy. I think the worst one I've seen was the Dragon Ball one, back in 2000 something. Yeah, Evolution was the worst thing I think I've ever seen. That should not have gotten cleared. I don't know how they
didn't even separate the words Dragon Ball. They made it one word.
Yeah,
Dragon Ball, for the first time ever.
Don't know how that got cleared.
So what do you think about the live actions? Have you seen any of them? And the ones that you have seen, What do you think?
Yeah, I've seen that. I think Full Metal was okay-ish. I think Death Note was really bad. Rurouni Kenshin, like you said, was really good. That trilogy of movies is fantastic. Yeah, I don't have any strong feelings towards it. I don't think it ruins the original work. If anything, like it presents it to a wider audience. That said, if the show is bad, people might go, I didn't like it, so they don't even give the original work a chance. I think Cowboy Bebop was also okay.
Yeah, I was surprised that it got canceled because I actually enjoyed it for what it was. And, you know, I'm still willing to give the new One Piece live action a shot when it releases this summer. So, you know, they've been pushing it heavy, and I'm kind of excited for that.
To me personally, it doesn't take away from how I enjoy those shows in their anime form. So I'm not bothered at all by the live action adaptations. In fact, sometimes I'm curious to see how they do certain things. Like, do they use CG? Were they able to go practical here? Like, what's the cast? How are they like making these ridiculous anime characters into realistic look? Like, I think that's usually really interesting. The one downside that I can see is like the feeling I have with Seven Deadly Sins right now, which everyone tells me you got to read the manga. It's a really good manga. And I'm like, I watched the show and that sucked, man. Like, I don't want to touch it. But like, that's like the negative effect that these movies could have, right? Someone watches the Death Note movie and they're like, nah, I'm not going to watch the anime. Forget about it. And it's one of the best of all time, you know? That's the one thing that I could see it hurting. But I think it does. Read the manga of Death Note?
No, of Seven Deadly Sins.
I know. You're okay. Well, person number 342. I promise I will. I have promised that I will. So I just got to find the time. I'm trying to get through JoJo Part 7 now.
How do you like JoJo's?
JoJo's is ridiculous. And I love how unpredictable it can be. I love how it keeps me on my toes about.
What's your favorite manga that you've read so far?
I'm not a big reader.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I could tell you. It's 1,000-year blood war. Maybe that ending sucks.
Well, Globku, man, it was a pleasure having you here on the channel. Definitely let us know let the audience know what you got cooking up, what's next for you. What you got going on, and where they can find you at once again.
I don't know. I can't tell you. I think I'm like always working on a big project in addition to like the regular videos. Usually I'm posting like 4 videos a week, and while working on those 4 videos, I'm working on something bigger. The last big thing that I worked on was a subathon, and now I'm in between projects. Like I'm working on the next big stuff already, but it's too soon to announce because it's still a baby.
Yeah, I kind of, you know what I mean? Audience, I'm not going to tell y'all, but your boy knows something. They're gonna love it. I tell you one thing, they're gonna love that. In the near future, let them know where they can find you at on YouTube and also any other social medias you might have.
Yeah, I'm Globku on YouTube. I'm Globku on Twitter. Those are mainly the 2 things that I use. Also, Globku Live on YouTube for the live streaming channel. That's it. Pretty simple.
And I am your host, the one and only one, fleeboyjetson, with Bake Lake and my boy Dens. Dens and Bake, let them know where they can find you at on Instagram, Twitter, or whatever platforms they can find you.
Big Lake on Twitch.
Bake on Twitch. You heard her.
Mine's just games on Twitch.
Yeah, definitely go check them out, man. They're great streamers. They stream daily. Catch them, man. You might find some wild stuff on Bake Channel. You don't never know what she's doing. You might be burning the kitchen down or burning herself. But you can definitely catch her on Twitch, man. So appreciate everybody for coming through, man. For more content on Voice of the Heroes, with your favorite content creators, voice actors, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, heroes, we are out.
Voice of the hero, voice of the hero, voice of the hero.